MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Good morning and thank you so much. It's another beautiful Wednesday that we are right here on MBCI TV. The program you're watching right now is the Mid-Morning Pack. Of course, you know this is your weekly show that comes every Wednesday from 10:30 a.m. where we discuss weighty matters in the society and also give you an opportunity to interact with some of our guests, even as they try to make sense of what is happening in the country. We are glad that you have found time to be with us and also trusting that you are doing well. And we appreciate so much for your time today. And of course, this is a subject that has been taking place across this particular week, beginning Monday. And this is a subject that we are going to discuss today in details. That is the Africa Summit on Climate Change. It began on Monday and it's ending officially today. So we are expecting some resolutions. We are expecting a declaration on this particular subject. And of course, we are going to highlight it. But of course, as we always do in this particular show, I'm also joined by my colleague, Paul Kagi. It's good to see you on the other end, Bwana Kagi.
Thank you. Good morning, Mangicho. How are you? How is your Wednesday?
My Wednesday is nice, and we are happy again to join together, even as we look at some of the issues that are happening in the country across this 1 week.
Right. Just to say hi to all our viewers, wherever you are, and welcome to the Mid-Morning Path. This Wednesday, the 6th day of September, the year 2023. As usual, we are going to look at the things that are making headlines for the last few days as we continue with the topic of discussion of the day, the climate change.
Of course, and later on, we shall be joined by two guests to help us in looking at this particular subject in details, the subject on Africa Summit on Climate Change. Later on, we shall be joined by Grace Karanja. She is the Director, Environment, Energy, Climate Change and Natural Resources from the County Government of Nakuru. And also, we'll also be joined by Bwana Kennedy Mongai, who is Chief Officer, Environment, Energy, Climate Change and Natural Resources, also from the County Government of Nakuru. They are knowledgeable and also have information regarding to this particular subject on climate change. And of course, they'll be here also to help you, our viewer, to be able to know. And of course, if you have a question or you want to interact with us, we also have a question that we are asking you because we also want you to participate. And we want to find out from you, what do you make of the 3 days Africa Climate Change Summit that has been happening in Nairobi? What do you make of the 3-day Africa Climate Change Summit that has been taking place in Nairobi? You can give us your perspectives, you can give us your opinions on this particular matter. You know the drill. Catch us live on our Facebook page, that is MBCI TV, and also you can get us live on our YouTube page, that is MBCI TV Official. We'll be glad to also find out your contribution on this particular subject. But of course, Kagi, before we delve into this particular matter, there are other issues that have been making headlines across this 1 week.
Yes, correct, Mangicho. And we have several issues that we are going to quickly highlight. What has been happening for the last 3 days. One, there has been a report in our dailies today regarding to the continuing the political, or what we are calling the National Dialogue Committee, which is trying to bring order in our political arena. And we know that there has been some issues here and there regarding to what has been happening in our country. And these dialogues have fronted several things that we need to look at as a country. And one of the elephant in the room is the issue of the IEBC. Okay. And according to the report, the Raila team has proposed that we go back to the 1997 IPPG. And for those maybe who may not be aware of the 1997 IPPG, this is where the selection panel decided that we have political parties coming together and to select the IEBC commissioners. And this matter has been in the heart of Raila, who has not been comfortable with the IEBC commissioners being selected by a group of people according to the current constitution. And they are pushing for the amendment whereby now political parties will be given a chance to be able to select members of the IEBC And then they decide. But if you could recall the 1997 IPPG, even though it was good because it was KANU then, which agreed with the political parties from the opposition to be able to front the commissioners, there were some hiccups here and there. And the main thing regarding to this kind of proposal is when it comes to propose the chair of the Electoral Commission. And therefore, this matter has been fronted. As we continue, the deliberations are still ongoing. We expect that the team, which has been mandated to be able to look at these matters, they are going to strike a deal regarding to the proposal to go back to the 1997 IPPG.
Yeah, of course, we really hope that now we are going to have a lasting solution in terms of or on matters related to elections, so that we don't have the squabbles that we've been witnessing after every 5 years of elections, especially the presidential election. And of course, one of the things, as you've rightly put it, is, or what normally comes, is that the IBC, or the panel that has been selected, or the commission that has been selected, there has always been the allegations that maybe they favored a particular side during the election.
Right.
So maybe the method that they want to use, so that maybe they can have a commission that can actually have the trust of Kenyans, maybe that is a method that can really contribute in enhancing the trust of this particular body that is very important and very integral in matters pertaining election.
Just to mention the current situation regarding to having the IEBC commissioners, we have, according to the Constitution, what we call the selection panel, which invites the applicants who want to maybe fill the positions of IEBC commissioners. Then from there, they look at the applicants and they maybe sample the best out of the applicants, and they send the proposed names to the president, who again appoints the IEBC commissioners. I think this is where now the bone of contention is, whereby the opposition is not comfortable with the panel doing this job. What they are saying, they want a fair playing ground whereby everybody will be involved. Now, yesterday, I know that you'll be talking about the climate change and the summit, which is in Nairobi. But there's one thing that was mentioned yesterday by the president. This matter is not the first time he is mentioning this issue. It's the issue of maybe looking at the African debt payment.
Right.
And yes, the president who was addressing that summit yesterday said that you guys from Western, yes, we rely on you in terms of debts, but please don't kill us with debts, you know.
Sure.
And they were saying that why should Africans pay 5 times more than any other country in the world? And he was categorical by saying that we have no problem with the debts, we have no problem with paying our debts. Yes, we are ready. We don't want to be favored by anybody, but you want to have a fair playing ground where everybody is treated equally, you know. And therefore, yesterday he was very, very, very tough on this in front of Western dignitaries like John Kerry, who is a U.S. presidential envoy on the climate change. There were presidents from from EU, right, and other dignitaries. And they are saying that there's an unfair loan agreement with the West. They are pushing for that agreement with the West, even though they are giving us some debts, but let us pay this debt according to all fairness. And another thing he's trying to push is whereby Africa is going to have one currency. You know, he has been talking about the issue of dollar. Why should we use dollar between the trade between an African country and an African country? So they are looking for a currency whereby if we want to trade with maybe Djibouti or South Africa, we are going to use the same currency to be able to reduce the punitive taxes that comes along when using dollars. Okay. I feel, Mangicho, this matter, even though the West is not showing signs, they are not comfortable with it. Yeah, and of course, I also agree that even as we talk about that, we should also think about in the future, or actually even now beginning to prepare for it, so that we can have a time when we will not actually be depending on the West. Because we also believe that we are endowed very well in terms of resources
as a continent. Even also we look at our country, Kenya.
Yes.
So I think, and this is a very positive trend that is now beginning in Africa. Even actually commending on this particular summit that is taking place for the very, very first time in Africa.
Yeah.
And I think there are quite some voices, very loud, coming from leaders, coming from different quarters across the African continent. And maybe this is the right time when now Africa wants to be very, very clear in terms of the direction that it wants to take. Because we believe that we've been affected for a very long time. Even when it comes to this issue of debt, even as a country, we've been given the figures that we are using to pay the debts. And I believe even we've had the president and the Kenya Kwanza government saying that this time around they want to reduce on the amount of debt that they've been borrowing from the foreign countries.
Yeah.
So that at least we can be able to see what is it that we can have and what is it that you can do with the resources that we have as a country and
finally,
by extension the continent.
And finally, I can mention that we are not badly off.
Yes.
We have a starting point because already we have a very strong financial institution called the African Development Bank. And if we have a bank which is caters for African affairs, that means we have a good starting point, whereby if you want to implement this proposal, I feel we only need goodwill from all African countries.
Sure.
And maybe we look at one more issue.
Okay.
Yeah. The issue of the freedom fighters, Mangicho, is not very new to us for the last few months. This year, we have lost several guys who were very instrumental in fighting for the freedom of our country during independence. And this matter has been really politicized for many years. And of current, it has really brought a lot of heat in the political arena, especially from the Mount Kenya region. Yesterday, a lady called Marshal Muthoni Kirima died. She's from Nyeri County. And there are few things I could point out when it comes to the issue of freedom fighters, Mangicho.
Right.
We know there was another burial in Nyandarua, I think the last few weeks ago. And the issue of the freedom fighters and the land is a thorn issue in our country. This matter has never been addressed, and it is now becoming late for us to implement. And I was asking myself, how else can we be able to help these guys who we really recognize for fighting for our independence? And the thought that was coming through my mind was, before we sort out the issue of land, which is a bit more complex, I think we could reason the issue of monitoring, whereby we could, you see, monitoring is much easier. You just go to Parliament, we pass a bill on how we are going to help these guys who fought for our independence, and then we give them some financial support to be able to make their lives maybe a little bit relaxed and enjoy their last days on this earth. And they also need to register themselves. And I was asking myself, if today we have a formula to be able to compensate these guys, do we have a register that can be able to be trusted, that these are the guys who fought for independence?
Sure.
You know, there was a case which was taken to UK by a guy called Geto Wakahengeri, who is, I think, the chair of the freedom fighters, regarding to compensate them because of the atrocities they went through during independence. Despite the UK Parliament okaying, compensating them, many of them have never been compensated. So we need to come up with a formula through Parliament on how we can be able to help these guys to be able to get a solution. Instead of waiting when they die, we have a pomp and color burial ceremonies.
Kagi, you're spot on, and it's quite unfortunate. I agree with you, it's quite unfortunate because, again, it's an issue of more talks and less actions.
Yes.
And when we have the funerals of some of these great men and women who did a lot for this particular country, that is when you will hear people talking about how they love these Mau Mau veterans, how they really want to make sure that their welfare is looked into. But once the funeral is over, everyone is quiet. We wait for another funeral. I think politicizing this particular issue is very unfortunate, and I agree with you that I think it is high time maybe some of the bodies like Parliament, they really now need to really look into this particular matter with the seriousness that it deserves.
All right.
Yes, and I think because of time, maybe we can take a short break at this particular point. Then when we come after the short break, we'll be joined by our guest. Today we are talking about on climate change, the Africa Summit on Climate Change. That is our subject of discussion in today's program, and we are glad. Remember, we've also asked you a question. What do you make of the 3 days Africa Climate Change Summit that has been taking place in Nairobi? What do you make of the 3 days Africa Climate Change Summit that has been taking place in Nairobi? And I think, Kagi, before we have the guest,
yes, we
can also join our reporter, that is Vincent Kimtai. Of course, we always have an opportunity to send him to the ground, to the streets, and also find what are Kenyans also thinking, or what are the opinions of Kenyans regarding to this particular subject. And of course, they interacted with quite a number of them, and this is what they had to say about this particular subject. Vincent Kimtai, it's your turn.
Mangicho Mola pamoja na Paul Kagi. Hapa hivi leo nitakuwa nikizungumza na Wakenya kuhusiana na swala la mabadiliko ya tabia nchi. Hii ni kufuatia athari zake ambazo zimekuwa zikishuhudiwa katika siku za hivi karibuni humu nchini, ambapo tumeona wengi wakifariki kutokana na ukame, huku mifugo wengi pia wakiweza kufariki, wengi wakiweza kuondoka kwenye makazi yao kutokana na mafuriko ambayo yanasababishwa na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi. Huku kongamano la mabadiliko ya tabia nchi likiendelea jijini Nairobi, ambapo viongozi pamoja na wanaharakati wa mazingira wanazungumzia swala hili nzima, ambapo wanatarajiwa kutoa mapendekezo ya jinsi ya kukabili mabadiliko ya tabia nchi. Na hapa hivi nitakuwa nikizungumza na Wakenya kuwashirikisha ikiwa hao ni njia zipi ambazo taweza kuwekwa ili kuhakikisha tunakabili mabadiliko ya tabia nchi, na ikiwa wanafikiri kama kongamano la Nairobi litaweza kuzaa matunda ya kukabili mabadiliko hayo.
Kulingana na mimi, hii mkutano ambayo inaendelea ya climate change ni mzuri, lakini ile kitu ambayo ingefanywa kwanza ni uhamasisho kwa raia wa chini, kwa sababu unajua climate change pia inachangiwa na watu ambao iko chini, kwa mambo ya uchafuzi, kwa mambo ya ukataji wa miti. Hiyo ndio sababu kubwa sana ambayo tunaona ya kwamba pengine inaleta hiyo mambo ya uharibifu. Mambo ya factories ambayo iko katika Kenya, katika ile pollution ambayo iko nayo, tunaona inaharibu mambo ya climate change. So asa kabla hatujaenda mbele, kulingana na vile rais anasema kila wakati ya kwamba tupande miti bilioni 15, ni kwamba kwanza tusuie ukataji wa miti. Kabla hatujapanda, tusuie yale ambayo iko. Tuko na miti ambayo ina mingi, ambayo hii ya exotic ambayo ilipandwa na ya biashara, na kuna ile indigenous trees ambayo ilipandwa na Mungu. Na ukiangalia saa hizi misitu watu wameingilia misitu ambayo ni indigenous, ambaye haistahili kukatwa. Kwa hivyo, kwa sababu tuko na resources, tuko na serikali, tuko na watu ambao wameachiriwa katika serikali, waweze kuchunga hizi misitu kwanza, wasiharibu miti.
Hiyo mkutano inaendelea Nairobi ya Global Summit, tunaisupport na inatuletea faida kwetu. Kenya inatuletea faida kwa sababu hata hapa gavana wetu ametupatia miradi mingi ya kupanda miti. Hata tunagojea kuna mradi inakuja Nakuru, imesupportiwa na First Lady, ndio tuanze kupanda miti huko kwa kila mahali, na tuna support hiyo kabisa 100%, itatuletea mazuri. Hata tunashukuru ni vile president ameweza kuunganisha mapresident hao wengi wamekuja huku Afrika. Hiyo tuna support. Tunaweza kuambia kila mtu mahali yako, hata kama ni kwa ploti yake anapanda mti kama ni moja hivi unapanda.
Njia kwanza ya preserve forest, serikali ingepunguza bei ya gas by like half. Hiyo itazuia hii mambo ya kukata miti kiolela, makaa, kuni, nini. That is one. Two, the forest ile the other regime, mambo ya kukata miti kwa forest wangeweka on hold for some time until waweke mechanisms in place ili kama ni wanasema wanakata ile miti imekuwa mzee, then it should really be ile imekuwa wasted. Otherwise history ya kukata miti ya like 5 years 4 up to 10 years bado inaturudisha nyuma. So all in all, whatever the government is saying up there ni tofauti na ile kitu iko kwa ground. Wanaenda, they are telling the international community a different thing. Kurudi huku they are allowing ukataji wa miti, sio kukata ile ya kiholela. You know, they are doing it carelessly. Yeah. So kwanza wawe sincere na ile kitu wanafanya hiyo peke yake.
Sasa mimi nafikiri upande ya climate change ni watu kujitolea kupanda miti namna inawezekana, na mali ambao kuna changa sasa hakuna mali ya miti, watu wafikirie vile naweza ni binu gani naweza kutumika ili kupanda miti ya kutosha ili kuepukana hilo jambo wakati kuna ukame. Na wakati kama huu ambayo kuna kiangazi, na wakati sasa tunasikia watu ya kutoa maoni ya mambo ya hewa ati El Nino inakuja. Sijui serikali imejipanga kivipi wakati ya El Nino. Kwanza mimi ni mmoja ya mambo kama hayo ambao mimi ni chairman wa Kenya Traffic Rescue Mission, ambao wakati kama huu climate change tunaangaziwa na watu ya hali ya anga ati kutakuja mafuriko. Sasa sijui serikali imejiandaa namna gani yani kuepuka na watu yake vile ambao tungekuwa na helikopta ambao imekaa standby mali ambayo watu wanakuwa na mafuriko, vile tunatakuwa tukihamisha watu kutoka mali kuna mafuriko na kupeleka mali ambayo hakuna mafuriko kitabu mvua iishe. Lakini mambo ya vile kupanda miti kama upande ya Northern, manake nimetembea sana upande huo, ni mali iko desert. Ni binu gani ambayo inaweza kutumika kupanda miti huko mali ambayo iko desert? Manake hiyo ni changamoto kubwa sana, na watu wajitolee kupanda miti kwa wingi na kuchunga miti, si kukata miti kiholela. Manake hii changamoto inaletwa sababu ya kukosa hali ya climate change. Na ningelipenda serikali iniunge mkono, manake wakati kama huu, kama mimi ni chairman ya Kenya Traffic Rescue Mission, ningekuwa nimejiandaa kama ningepata watu ambao wanaweza kunisaidia.
Miti hata wakati Mungu alipoumba ulimwengu alikuwa na miti mingi sana dunia hii, lakini watu generation ilikuja kakata miti. Lakini ni mpango ya Mungu pia miti ikue, kwa sababu miti iko na fresh air, vitu mzuri sana kwa miti. Pia napanda miti lakini si sana, napanda tu moja kulingana na climate change. Shamba imekuwa kidogo, sasa unapanda yenye una 2-3 hivyo.
Sasa kulingana na hiyo mkutano wa Nairobi, it is step ya kwanza on the right direction. Kukuwa na ile will ya kutaka kurekebisha mambo ya climate ni a good step. Na so hata kama matunda itakuwa itakuja na speed kidogo, lakini at least step moja kuna will ya kutaka kurekebisha mambo ya climate. Alafu pia hii mambo ya locking, vile serikali imefungua mambo ya kukata locking, tunafaa wananchi wanafaa kuelezwa vizuri kwa hii mambo ya locking inafikia kiwango gani, ndio tusiko tunakata sana na tubandi.
This climate change has come about as a result of human activity. What I mean is partially logging within forests, which is currently taking place in most of our forests. What do we do? Because we must use fire. In most of our local homes, fire comes from the wood which we need to preserve. So most of these things we have to work harder than what we are doing. Even if we were to put money in the issue of solving the climate change, I don't think we will do much. So I'm not seeing this meeting in Nairobi achieving a lot in correcting the climate change.
we have been relying on fossil fuel. And fossil fuel is very dangerous. Since immemorial, we have not going to green climate change. When you go to Uganda, it is green up to Congo forest. The Congo forest is natural. In Nakuru, Dondori used to be a very good forest. And you go to Kisii, there's rainfall all the time because in Kisii it's compulsory. If you build a home, one tree. How are we going to protect? It's very simple to protect biodiversity. You plant trees and you remove that electricity. You remove that fossil fuel and you embark on a new green climate.
Mimi nikiwa kama mama ningetaka sana vijana wetu wakute hewa ikiwa mzuri. Kwa sababu nini? Wakati sisi tulisaliwa tulikuta hewa ikiwa mzuri, haikukuwa imeharibiwa na hii maneno ya mafactory. Kwa sababu hii mafactory haisaidii, kwa sababu hata watoto wetu wapati kazi. Kwa hivyo sisi tutafurahia kukua na yeye na kusaidiana na kazi, hata kama sisi ni wazee. Na wazee wataonesha watoto kupanda miti na kuitusha.
Tukienda kila misitu kama hii ya Koipatek, kienda Molo, kienda Kericho, unapata watu wameingia wanachoma makaa. Na hili hali serikali iko. Ni jukumu gani serikali itachukua kwanza kuhakikisha kwamba hiyo mambo ya ukataji ya miti imekoma. Kwa wakati huu serikali iliajiri watu juzi ambaye ni guards ya forest. Hiyo watu ambaye wameajiriwa wajue ya kwamba wameachiria kuchunga miti. So ni lazima kila forest ipewe watu wa kutosha kuchunga hizo miti, watu wasiingie kuharibu. Alafu pia viongozi, watu ya mambo ya environment. Nakuta watu ya environment wanakaa tu kwa ofisi. Wanasema wanachunga environment. Hakuna environment iko kwa ofisi. Environment iko nje, ni watu watembee, waone ni mahali gani imeharibika ili wapate jawabu ya kusaidia.
Mangicho pamoja na Paul Kagi, hayo ni kauli na mapendekezo ya Kenya kuhusiana na swala nzima la mabadiliko ya tabia nchi, ambapo tumeona wengi wanasema pendekezo yanayotolewa katika kongamano linalokamilika leo jijini Nairobi lazima yatekelezwe, kwani kwa mara nyingi kongamano kuhusiana na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi yamekuwa yakitoa mapendekezo ambayo hayafanyiwi kazi au hayatekelezwi. Vile vile tumeona wengi wanasema pia miti inayopandwa inastahili kulindwa hadi kuwa ili kuhakikisha serikali inafikia maazimio yake ya upanzi wa miti bilioni 15 kufikia mwaka 2032. Nikiripotia kipindi cha Mid Morning Park, MBC TV, jina langu ni Vincent Kimutai.
Well, thank you so much, Vincent Kimutai and your entire crew for such a superb job on getting the feedback from Kenyans and their perspectives on what they think about this particular very pertinent issue on climate change. And of course, this is what we want now to follow up on, and we are glad that our guests are already on the set, like we had promised earlier with my colleague Paul Kagi, is that today, because this is a subject that has actually been the major issue of discussion across this particular week here in our country, Kenya, following the Africa Summit on Climate Change that has been taking place in Nairobi. And of course, it is a good subject to look into. And our guests are already in the studio, joined by Grace Karanja, that is the Director, Environment, Energy, Climate Change and Natural Resources from the County Government of Nakuru, and also Kennedy Mungai, Chief Officer, the Environment, Energy, Climate Change and Natural Resources, also from the County Government of Nakuru. Ladies and gentlemen, karibuni sana. Good to have you today on MBC TV.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us here.
Yes, and it's a pleasure. And of course, we had promised our viewers that we shall be joined by you so that at least you can help us. And maybe just to start, because I think different people understand matters climate change differently. And apparently there's also been a video that has been doing rounds of a member of parliament who apparently by virtue of the interview that he gave, it's like they didn't really understand what climate change is. And maybe I can just start with Grace, maybe for purposes of even helping our viewer who might not really have a very, very good and clear understanding about climate change. How do you describe it?
Okay, thank you so much. When we talk about climate change, it's a change in temperature whereby we, as a result of exposure to greenhouse gases, that's our natural gases, that when God was creating this world, he gave us all these gases. But when they are exposed, sometimes they become harmful. Some of them like carbon dioxide, methane and all that. So when they are excessively exposed into the atmosphere, they cause what we call the warming of the atmosphere. When the warming happens, it also affects what we call the ozone layer that protects us from the harmful rays from the sunshine. That in the effect, when it causes that harmful effect in terms of maybe it can develop a hole or deplete that ozone layer, then you can now feel the warming. That's what we call now global warming.
Global warming.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Grace. Quite a detailed exploration of climate change there. But Kennedy, maybe even as you add to that, because we've had some viewers there, and they've also expressed what they think about climate change. What would be your perspective on this?
Thank you so much, Kagi. And just to add on what Grace said is basically the issues of climate change is a long time change of weather patterns. So for about 20, 30 years, if there have been a change of pattern, maybe prolonged temperatures, higher temperatures, low temperatures, we have long rainfall that is expected that leads to flooding. When you have our soil texture changing due to erosion and higher levels of water flowing on the ground, those are some of the things that people see and they relate to climate change. So climate change is not complex. It's only that people have not been made to understand and to relate with it to the very basic things that normally happens to them on a daily basis.
On a daily basis. Yes, and because now we've had this particular summit, Grace, beginning on Monday, and some of our viewers are even saying that maybe they're not really seeing how important it is going to be, and maybe they are wondering at the end of the day, what is it going to achieve, or what are some of the issues, what are some of maybe the impact, what are some of the results that we are going to see. Why do you think this summit is very, very important at a time like this, and being held in Kenya actually for the first time, and also in Africa? Okay,
I'll say it is a plus for Kenya. As you know, our president is one of the head of the climate forum for African department. And with that, when we are coming up with the Africa's climate summit, we are talking of issues of Africans because we are the most affected. According to research, we are talking of us accounting for 4% of greenhouse gases or carbon emission, the whole of Africa. You can imagine the rest is from now developed country. But when it comes to the impact, the Africans are the heavily affected by such impact in terms of drought, in terms of flooding and all that. So it is important because we are given an opportunity for us to discuss our own challenges, have solutions, and we can own the process. It's also important because we can be able to have actions that are African-oriented. We have resources that God has given us. Some of them are untapped because maybe we are relying on the other people to bring that solution or finance our program. So it is a good opportunity when we can talk Africa issues. We can have ways, strategies on how we can be able to sustainably utilize the untapped resources because we have enormous of them. And we can have also craft the way forward, coming up with the awareness creation in terms of having that we can be able to fund our own initiative geared towards climate action. So to me, it's a very important forum. And since it is the first one, we are privileged to host it.
Right.
We feel it has given us the right now to talk as Africans and as Kenyans because we are part of that.
Exactly.
We are losing a lot when it comes to issues of climate impact-oriented programs. Like, for example, we are talking of losing around maybe 7 billion to 15 billion as a result of effect of climate change. But with that, we do not, whatever we get from maybe outside countries, we are talking about 28 billion, the whole of Africa. You can imagine such an immense gap, of which we expected to do much, but we are emitting little, but the effect are so much on us.
Sure, and I think that is one of the things that has actually been of a major concern, Kennedy, even as you chipped in, that apparently Africa is actually giving this particular issue the weight that it deserves, in spite of the fact that it has maybe contributed very little in terms of actually seeing what is it that you are witnessing currently.
Thank you. Thank you. So that's true. And actually, to just add on what Grace mentioned, is this summit has come at the right time. Africa has come of age. We need to agree to that. And we need to understand how to carry out our own issues. So climate action has 3 aspects. The first aspect is issues of governance. That is what we want to push, that people need to understand, because you cannot govern issues of climate action without involving people. You cannot action climate change issues when you don't have enough laws and framework. So it's coming at the right time. Number 2 is the injustice, just as Grace said. There's a lot of climate change injustice that is coming from the global north. That Africa has the biggest maybe carbon sink sequestration mechanisms. We are sinking more of the emissions that we are not giving out. So we want to come and get this justice. How can we be the ones suffering from the development countries? Right. Yet we are also the ones who are playing a big role in terms of seeking the same carbon. And lastly, as she rightly said, we need to discuss about financing. Climate change actions are very expensive because, one, it has the aspect of mitigation. You have the aspect of adaptation, and you have the aspect of resilience. That is the resilience, you increase the capacity of the community to handle climate change effects. So when the president was addressing himself to issues of financing, it was very good. I was very happy that moving forward, we'll now have our own framework of financing this. And moving forward, the climax of this summit will be a declaration that we are going to take to Conference of Parties in Dubai.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Kennedy. And before I come back to Grace, maybe one thing, what do you think, therefore, that Africa has come out, we are coming up with a declaration today. What do you think, therefore, because you've also raised the issue of governance, what do you think, therefore, is the place of maybe the global political goodwill in terms of actually now fixing this particular issue this time around?
Yeah. One, I think the global political goodwill is coming because, one, we have realized that most of the financing is coming from abroad. It's not internal. So when there's a political goodwill globally, one, we are going to get reasonably financed loans. That's number 1. Number 2, they are supposed to come on board and support initiatives by government, for example, on renewable energy. Are they willing to come and invest capital projects that are going to accelerate uptake of renewable energy and the issues to do with clean and green energy? Another thing is, we remember we have 2 protocols that have been discussed. We have the Kyoto Protocol and we have the Paris Agreement. All those were made at the global scene politically. So it's high time that now in the declaration be made that these protocols are observed and they're implemented to the latter.
Sure, thank you so much, Kennedy. So Grace, coming down home, and for purposes of also, because of course we've already put it, that Africa is the one that has been actually severely affected by the impact of climate change. When you look at Kenya, and maybe even coming down even maybe to a county like Nakuru. How do you paint the effects of climate change?
To me, I think to some areas is severe, because in Kenya we usually enjoy different ecological zones. So we have areas that are very dry. We have areas that are a bit better warm and sometimes we receive rainfall. But when it comes to issues now of drought, right now, because of issues of climate change, you cannot really tell when it's going to rain for the areas that maybe they are more agricultural. For the areas that are usually dry, it's even worse. So to me, I would say that Africa, yes, we have been able to know this thing is hitting on us. And that's why Kenya became a signatory to the ratify the Paris Agreement in the year 2016.
Sure.
And from there, they were able to come up with a nationally determined contribution, meaning we should have climate action plans. At the same time, we were able to develop the first Climate Change Act of 2016, that is nationally, which is guiding us on how we can have now actions that are geared towards what we are experiencing and also extrapolating on what can happen in future. So with that one, it's also with the coming now of the county in the year 2030.
Sure.
The devolved functions, one of them on issues of climate change and mainstreaming climate change in county development plans. So with that one, you are supposed to come up with legal framework that support that.
Okay.
And as is the county being able to be there, as the way the nationally we are prepared. We usually enjoy a very good platform when Kenya it comes to issues of environment and climate change globally. So to us also we've been able to customize and the same mandate that we are given as per the County Government Act and the Constitution, that we've been able now to mainstream the same actions within our local, which we call locally led actions.
Okay.
So we can be able now to have the things that people can adopt, things that people be identify themselves with, and which we can achieve with or without the help from outside.
Wow.
Yes.
And of course, I know in a short while we'll want to find out, therefore, what maybe a county like Nakuru is actually doing in terms of maybe mitigating these particular effects. But also maybe there is the understanding that different peoples maybe are being affected differently. In your opinion, who are the most vulnerable in terms of the effects of climate change?
Okay, as a county, we have done a risk and vulnerability assessment. So we already know where we are on matters climate change. And according to the finding of that research, it talks about women, elderly, and children are the most affected. They are the most vulnerable when it comes to issues of climate change. I know people will ask, where are men? Yes, they are part of the society, but mostly affected because of the vulnerability index. It comes more on elderly, women, and children. Because sometimes men maybe go somewhere else to look for greener pastures so they can feed their families, whereas the women and children and elderly are left at home, maybe taking care of different issues. So when you talk of the scarcity in water, who goes to look for that water?
Okay.
When you're talking of energy, and some of them many of them, the large percentage is dependent of fuel wood. Women go to fetch for that, and they take long hours to go get that firewood. So they are affected differently, but according to vulnerability index, women, elderly, and children are the most affected.
Women, elderly, and children.
Yeah.
Kennedy, now, I know the most important thing that now maybe most people are actually waiting to hear is now, what do we do as a country? What do we do as a county? What do you make of maybe some of the strategies that have been taken by the county or by the government, and also maybe by the county government?
Thank you so much. Kagi, before I join in,
Mangicho.
Mangicho.
Is my colleague.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
As I jump into what you just raised, I want to just add on what Grace mentioned, that we have also realized a huge impact on the health of our community. If you look at the respiratory unit of our main hospitals and our eye units, you realize we have increased statistics of people who are going to
hospital because of issues to do with polluted air and all that. Significantly, Nakuru County has about 1.6 million metric tons on CO2, and we are burning a lot of carbon, being on the corridor, on the transport corridor. So all that is going to affect the health of our community. So significantly, it runs the budget of health. So moving forward to what you just asked, Nakuru County has made tremendous steps and strategies towards handling issues to do with climate change actions. Number one, Grace mentioned there is a law that was enacted in 2021, Nakuru County Climate Change Act, which went ahead and enabled formulation of a fund. So Nakuru County has a fund that amounts to 1.5% of development budget, which is meant to spearhead actions on climate change. So for this financial year, we have about 55 million, which will be spent towards what I mentioned, that is mitigation, adaptation, and resilience in terms of climate change. Last financial year, we had 33 million, which we were unable to spend because of framework. So this year, we have about 83 now million. Moving to the national strategy, we have a fund that has been given as a grant to national government called FLOCA. FLOCA is financing locally led climate action. Each county, among the 47 counties that are qualified, will get about $1.25 million. So Nakuru County has met all the prerequisites of having qualified to get this money. We might get about 140 million, which again will go to development concepts of climate change. And number two, the other strategy is in law, we have anchored our action into community-led. Because as you rightly saw when we had people being interviewed live, people somehow understand these things. It's only that they don't know what to do.
Exactly.
So we have what we call the World Climate Change Planning Committees at the world level, which is as an array of composition of people. So they'll be coming up with proposals which will be pushed to county government for funding, and they will be world-based. And lastly, the last strategy is that we have Nakuru County, through leadership of Her Excellency the Governor, has opened doors to development partners like GIZ, among others, who have come strongly on board to support our energy, Nakuru County energy plan. And our energy plan is wants to move at least, because as we speak now, we have about 70% of people, community, who are still using firewood to cook. And as Grace said, who is going to the kitchen? Most of the times women and children are the one absorbing this carbon. These are biofuels that we are burning. So our action plan is supposed to improve the statistics. At least we reduce the percentage that of people using firewood. So we have a renewable energy action plan with us that we want to push it down to at the world level.
Wow, very well put there. Yes, Grace.
What the CEO has said. To us also, to commit to climate change issues, we are a signatory to the Covenant of Mayors in Sub-Saharan Africa. It is the largest global alliance on climate change, resilience, and energy matters. And with that one, we have walked a journey. We became a signatory in the year 2020. And through what CEO has said now, it's helping us now, has helped us to develop like climate change action plans and also energy access and also a climate energy plan. With that one now, in the implementation process, and they have come in handy. And that's why we have been able now to do some of the things. We are transiting from now I would say, and green energy to green solutions that can be able to keep our people healthy, do our business in a conducive environment, at the same time also reducing the carbon footprint. So to that one, we've been also been able to earn many accolades in that area. As last year, we were meant as the best county or a best city in climate mitigation and adaptation, and also resilience and commitment to that, towards the action that we put forward to ensure that we take care of our people and the environment at that. So also in the in the EDED 2 weeks ago, EDED Devolution Conference, we emerged number 1. Also, as the same of committing to yes, thank you, committing to climate actions in areas of proper waste management through waste adoption of cleaner technologies and innovations towards waste management, which comes to reducing methane going into the atmosphere. So with that one, we feel that we have a lot to do. It's a matter of now making people aware so that we can walk this journey together.
And one of the things that, and both of you can contribute on this, one of the things that even I think some of those who are interviewed were talking about is the planting of trees, which maybe they so believe will really help in combating the issue to do with climate change. How far are we, and how viable is this particular project?
Thank you so much. Well, we have, as Nakuru County, we have joined the calling from His Excellency the President to join in growing 15 billion trees in the next 10 years. And we have actually moved the narrative from planting to growing. So the strategy is, first we adopt schools or protected areas where we can have communities, we give them trees, and we monitor their growth. And another thing is that we have an application called Jazamiti. Jazamiti, we are able to track trees that have been planted and are growing, are monitored as they grow nationally. So each county has a platform, a dashboard is that application where we are able to follow up on how many trees have been planted. So Nakuru County, through the leadership of the Governor, Susan Keka, has committed to do a minimum of 825 hectares every year. It is anchored, it has been mainstreamed in CIDP, that is County Integrated Development Plan, and each hectare is estimated to carry about 1,400 trees. So we were able to do that. It is something that we have done. We have, as the people leading the department.
So this is an initiative that has already started?
It has already started. We are doing it, definitely in collaboration with partners like KFS and so many other. And the national government has actually urged us when we celebrated the World Environment Day in Nakuru nationally, because nationally it was celebrated in Nakuru. The CS for Environment challenged us to increase the number to about 250,000 hectares, because that is the target from national government. So I think as we move forward, because we are involving the communities, I think this is an achievable target, and we are very, very hopeful that we are going to achieve it.
And maybe, Grace, as we pick on that, there has been that debate on the decision to lift the ban on logging, that now people are wondering whether it's really now going to make things worse. Or maybe is there a good strategy that has been put, because the government is on record as maybe announcing that it has lifted the ban on logging?
Okay, let me take over from where the CEO stopped.
Yes.
On what are the strategies that we want to increase the tree cover. For us, we'll say the tree cover because according to now the Forest Act, we have mandated functions for the counties, and counties are supposed to only manage on farm, trees on public land and community land. So gazetted forests are within the mandate of the Kenya Forest Service. So even them that have been able to lift the moratorium, it's within the KFS and national government for that matter. Because, and also these forests are also within the county, so we cannot exonerate ourselves. We are not taking part. So whatever happens to those forests is affecting our community and also the people around it. To me, I would say lifting the ban maybe has positive and negative, but when we are talking of lifting the ban, we are not talking about now opening the forest for people to cut everything. With the act that is there are certain trees that are supposed to be removed. For example, they usually have what we call the plantations within the forest, whom they have allowed for a certain period of time, and upon maturity they are supposed to harvest the trees. For the last 3 years, that one has not happened. So we usually have a backlog of the trees that were mature, they were supposed to be harvested, and they are not. And they are not within the protected forest. So with that one, I feel maybe what can happen is to ensure that the strict next of the law is followed, to ensure it's only the trees that are meant for harvesting, they should be harvested, and not the vice versa of maybe allowing everybody to go into the forest and have this. And remember, we also, within the forest establishment, we have the community forest associations that usually, in fact, they are the first people who usually manage the forest resources within the forest. They are the people living within the forest, and they are established also within the Forest Act. So with that one, it has many stakeholders, counties being part of, as people within the county are the one who are members of the CFAs and also the community around. So we cannot really say we are not party to, but we usually focus on ensuring the conservation and protection. So we work together with the national government to ensure that one happens. On the same time, we also encourage our own farmers to grow trees, not to rely on the forest produce. You can do forest within your own farm for commercial purposes, and then you can be given an opportunity when they are mature, you can harvest and use it. So right now we are coming, as you rightly said, we are coming out from the narrative of just going to the forest and fetch firewood and all that. You introduce you to an alternative source of livelihood in terms of if you are burning charcoal, you can be able to use some other things that are friendly to the environment. You can start to things that can be able to do like silviculture within the forest, beekeeping, and all those aspects. Yes, you leave the forest intact, but you are also accruing benefit from it. The same you can transfer to your own farm through growing high-value trees, like fruit trees and all that. So you not be over-dependent on the existing forest. So to me, if it is managed sustainably, I think after some time it's not be open for some time. It's usually have maybe a time frame, and from there you can be able now to forge ahead. So it's a matter of maybe informing people and telling you you're supposed to come here from there, this is what should happen, what are the rules that are supposed to be taken, so people are aware of what is happening. Because everybody's asking, the forest is open, but that's not the case.
Well put there.
If you allow me.
Yes.
Just 1 minute. To just put emphasis, because now in relation, because I've seen, as you have said, we're asking, we're talking about climate change and we're allowing people to come in and harvest. So issues of carbon reduction, carbon emissions has two aspects. It's either you reduce production or you remove from the air. So trees are among the listed ways of removing carbon from the atmosphere. So opening of the logging is allowing harvesting of mature trees. Mature trees are not growing. So essentially, they are not absorbing any carbon from the atmosphere. They are not sinking. The essence is sinking. So when we allow the people to harvest mature trees, we are not saying that we are actually increasing the carbon emission. No. The other younger trees that are growing are not harvested, so they are the ones that are going to sink. And lastly is, remember, forestry has an economic aspect. You see, you have to grow trees to maturity, then you can harvest them. You see, after harvesting, you can turn them into some economic. We have timber that we need to use. We have so many things that we can use for. But in terms of the relationship with climate change, logging of mature trees, it does not actually contribute to reducing the efforts to fight climate change.
And maybe just in 1 minute, what about our industries, our factories in Nakuru? They've been blamed also for their contribution in terms of destroying the environment. So far, maybe what is the working plan to ensure that they do things right?
Of course, as a department, we are mandated to guide on proper standards, and as per the water quality regulations, they are supposed to ensure that whatever they discharge into the environment is meet the standards. So whether the smoke or the effluent, it has to meet the standard. And that one is also taken care through NEMA, that is National Environment Management Authority. And to us, we can also monitor different pollution in terms of air pollution, noise pollution, and also effluent discharge waste, either into the open, into the water streams, and also all water bodies. So for us, we have put mechanisms in place to ensure that there is no pollution. We usually do inspections into those industries. Also to guide them, because some of them may be not aware of what they are supposed to do. If you are doing a facility that is big enough, you should have a water treatment facility. At the same time, you're supposed to have also a waste recovery in terms of liquid and solid waste, because two of them have to be managed differently. So for you, when you are putting up that industry, for example, you're supposed to conduct what we call an environmental and social impact assessment that gives maybe the anticipated impacts, both negative and positive. So if most of them are negative, you are not given consent to do that. So you're supposed to ensure that you meet the threshold, that whenever you come out with this project or these activities, it does not jeopardize the people living into a conducive environment.
Exactly.
So for them that are existing, we usually do the monitoring inspection to check lists whether they are able to follow there. Of course, you will not find the notorious one, but that one, there is a way, the law is there.
Yeah.
Like our county has an Nakuru County Waste Management Act of 2021, which has the both of solid and liquid aspect. So whenever I go there, I'm able to advise them. And also the county has got a Public Health and Sanitation Act that also combine the two to make sure that each and everybody adhere to the standards that are put forward.
Wow, wow, wow. Unfortunately, you're pressed for time, but we really want to appreciate our two guests for today in this particular show. That is Grace Karanja, the Director, that is Environment, Energy, Climate Change and Natural Resources from the County Government of Nakuru. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you. Very great insights on this particular subject. And also, Bwana Kennedy Mungai, the CEO, the Chief Officer, Environment, Energy, Climate Change and Natural Resources, also from the County Government of Nakuru. Thank you so much, sir. It's been a pleasure having you. Yeah. And that's... Yes.
Do you have a minute to closing?
Okay, maybe in 30 seconds.
Please.
Yes.
We also appreciate, and we ask that whenever there's an opportunity, we're able to come here anytime and push for this.
Sure.
And as a responsible government, we want to ensure that the environment is clean for everyone. Okay. And that is why we are doing everything that you can see. Even in the city, we have the National Garden here. It's a carbon sequestration mechanism in the city. We are also undertaking improving rehabilitation of Lions Garden. Okay. Also the city. It was going to help on the last topic that we have asked on industries that could be unknowingly releasing the emissions there. So we are doing it, and we are hoping that the community is going also to participate, because this is a government that supports community and community participation.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That's how we bring it to a close for today. Thank you so much. Also for joining us and also for your contribution. I have quite a number of SMSs, but because of time we cannot be in a position to respond to your feedback. But we'll do it again next Wednesday at a time like this on behalf of the entire beautiful crew that has made this a success. We want to wish you the rest of your viewing, and remember the lunch hour is coming up next. My name is Mangicho Molo on behalf of my colleague Paul Kagi. Have a blessed afternoon.